Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and I am social distancing from Chillmonger. No,
Oh,
get away! What's going on, Chill?
I'm doing okay. How's everyone else doing? You can't answer that because it's a
No.
podcast, but we're glad that you're here joining us. And I've got some burning questions. Oh,
You burning
I've got a
questions?
burning question. Who's
Like the
gonna?
burning questions that you do on your own channel that you only got 2 extra subscribers from last week? My peeps, my peeps. I'm saying, do you have an alt account? Do you have an alt account? Because this dude needs 500 subscribers by now. Like, I'm actually really bothered by this, but is what it is. Anyway, so what's going on, man? What's going on this week in comics?
So I gotta go to DC. I gotta go to Batman, and I'm wondering who's gonna be in better shape, Robert Pattinson or Chadwick Boseman?
Oh my God. Ch- Chadwick Boseman with no neck and Robert Pattinson. Dude, I saw this guy's Twitter. Like, listen, man, this some people should be checked into mental health facilities.
It's that
Like,
bad.
that's how, did you see his Twitter? The pictures that he posts, the
Uh,
goofy stuff that he does?
I just read the GQ article. No, what did he do on Twitter?
Nah, just like posing with, like, a tie wrapped around his arm and around his head while wearing a camel looking jacket. It's like, what
Oh,
is this guy doing? Like, what are you doing? It's like, I get you trying to have fun and stuff like that, but like when you go out of your way to troll as much as you possibly can, at some point, why has this guy been hired to do this role? Look, for me, this is pretty much the final straw. Okay. This is for me pretty much final straw. I've seen people laughing about it, and I don't understand why people hate this. It's great. And most of them are women.
yeah.
And it's pretty obvious why. All right. When you're a good looking guy, you could do whatever you want. You know
I
what I'm saying? I wouldn't know that except by looking at other good looking guys where it's like, ah, yeah, that guy can get away with anything he wants. Chillmonger, you could probably get away with whatever you want. you
Very true.
but this guy, like, he actually went and wrote, I am not going to exercise physically because I don't want to set a precedent of muscle bound basically of muscle-bound Batman, which I'm filling in the rest, but that's obviously what he was alluding to. I actually did because of this. I actually made my very first tweet and delete. That's right.
Ooh.
That's right. I actually did my very first tweet and delete where I tweeted. So I was so bothered by, so annoyed by something that I made a tweet. I was like, you know what? I'm not throwing my hat in this. I'm pulling my hat. I'm reaching back into the circle and I'm retracting my hat. So the tweet was essentially I tagged Matt Reeves, the director of the movie. I'm like, dude, you did not know what you were getting into when you first brought this guy in. I
Hmm.
don't care if this is real or not. This guy he's a loose cannon, and I don't know why you want to bring this kind of attention to your movie. You know what? I was already on the fence about seeing in the first place. I'll wait for it to come to Netflix. Bye. You know what I'm saying? And the truth is, even though I retracted the tweet, I still mean it
Whoa.
unless you or somebody who I know is actually planning on going to see this, and you come back and say, Bill, this was such a good movie, then I'm okay with waiting for it to come to video. I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush. It's not connected to anything. It's not like you got to see this for all of a sudden. Oh my God. You know, it connects to such and such. It fills in the gaps. It answers all my questions. It answers all my prayers. No, it's not going to happen. There's nothing like it. It's Robert freaking Patterson. It's Twilight Twinkle Boy vampire guy, Frederick Diggory, you know what I'm saying, who died at the end of the freaking movie because he couldn't stand up against freaking, what do you call it, Gandalf without a nose, whatever that guy's, Voldemort. You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares about this jabroni? And that's all he is a jabroni. He's a goofy little pretty boy who likes to act like he's so cool. And like, you know what? I'm just not in the mood for games. I'm not in the mood for games. It's a comic book movie. I'm a comic book nerd. I want to see something that's going to be fun. And when you start cracking your stupid little jokes like that, because I'm pretty sure he's going to be working out. Like, how do you not work out? And if he doesn't, my God, man, this guy needs to go back into freaking illusional hell, like where nobody talks about him, nobody knows who he is anymore. I don't want to see this guy in any more movies. Just like I literally got triggered by that. I genuinely got triggered by it because I saw this. I'm like, why? Why
Yeah.
is this a stupid game you want to play? Anyway, yeah, my rant. So early in the game, I just threw in a rant.
I'm totally agreeing with you. Like I think I'm even more heated about it. It's like there's a character named Batman. You chose to play this character named Batman. So what do you mean precedent that's been setting? If he said I don't want to set the precedent for muscle-bound action hero
Mind you,
protagonists,
he didn't say muscle bound, but that's of course what he was alluding to.
uh,
He said, "I don't want to set it. I'm going to not work out because I don't want to set a precedent." But the thing is that no matter what you do, you're setting a precedent,
I
right?
guess
Yeah, no matter what you do, you are setting a precedent. You're setting a precedent of a Batman who looks more like Daredevil than anything else. You're setting the precedent of a Batman who
uh,
sparkles and who has to go out at night because he sparkles during the day. You're setting the precedent of a guy who acts like a freaking moron on Twitter. Oh man, and gives trolling interviews to GQ and whatnot. Dude, I don't know why anybody takes this guy seriously. When you don't take yourself seriously, why do you take somebody seriously? It makes no sense. Maya Angelou said, "Listen to what somebody tells you about themselves, and then believe them."
once someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah.
Might be the whole quote. We remember celebrating how buff Shazam was, and people are even accusing him of having a suit that filled muscles in because that can't be real. Then he has to post a picture on Instagram like, "Nah, this is my real muscle." Everybody remember that? That was the
Oh,
controversy. That was actually fun because we were asking whether or not his muscles were real or not, and this is him just saying like he's
I
not.
didn't realize he posted that picture. Oh, that's cool. I looked, I was like, yeah, they probably buffed it in the suit, whatever. It didn't bother me. I'm like, whatever, it's cool.
And they'll probably do the same with Batman in this movie. And the funny thing is, like, as odd as he's acting now, and as much as I disagree with this mentality of not trying when you work out to look like Batman, if he's a good Batman, the film speaks for itself. Take all the outside stuff out, leave it on the outside. When I'm sitting for that 2 hour film, which I am still gonna watch, I haven't been turned off by it, even though Harley Quinn, even though Birds of Prey really tried their best to throw me off because the end credits, the post credit scene, the Warner Brothers logo comes up and she says, "Everyone, you want to hear about Batman?" And the movie goes to black. That was a troll. If anything was gonna make me not want to see this movie, it was that. But it's Batman.
Really? That?
That's disrespectful. That's not even funny.
Okay.
But like you just said, there's no urgency to see it because it's not attached to something else. Captain Marvel did have that right before Endgame, and she had the post-credit scene of Infinity War, and I'm sure that contributed a whole lot to her $1.1 billion that they made.
Maybe. Word of mouth is a son of a gun, man. Good or bad, especially bad. But yeah, like I said, the way I look at it is as simple as this. I believe he's just joking. I believe he's just trolling. I'm sure he's still working out and whatnot. But honestly, at this point, I just don't care. Sometimes, they say never meet your heroes. Well, unfortunately, that's also true with people who are nowhere near your hero list. He's a joke. Maybe he should be playing the Joker. You know what I'm saying? Or not even. I don't know. What should he? I'd be happy if I never heard from this guy again. He's a dude who doesn't take himself seriously. Psh, giving him too much time in this podcast. This podcast is better than Robert Pattinson. Let's move on.
And that's why I'm choosing Chadwick Boseman. He'll be in better shape for Black Panther.
Oh, 100%.
Tell me about Wonder Woman 3. Patty Jenkins says it'll be set in the modern day Superman and Lois.
The Superman Lois thing is a different thing. No, the modern day thing with Wonder Woman. Basically, she was already talking about Wonder Woman 3. She doesn't have a script ready for it yet, but she is saying that she's done with doing the whole stuff in the past thing. She did World War One, she did 1984, literally, that's the title of the Wonder Woman movie. And
Mhm.
she's saying when she starts working on the next Wonder Woman movie, it is not going to be set in the past. She's done with the whole past nostalgia things or whatever. She wants to do something in the modern day. Because at some point, it's like, where has Wonder Woman been? Only in the Justice League movies? Which actually brought her into saying that the way that she talked about Justice League 3, there was no information really. It was literally just a big loop of nothing. I don't even want to get into it, but she seemed to indicate that she has some say
Yeah.
in Justice League 3, which is intriguing. And I'm glad for that because I believe that Snyder is completely out of it. There,
No, that's been known. He's out of it.
no, there's talk about like DC at this point. It seems like they're starting to actually troll. Like the CW definitely trolled the whole Snyder Cut thing. Like I think that there's a message being put out that Snyder's almost going the way of freaking Pattinson at some point. I mean, it gets to this point where it's like, dude, you need to let go of the past and just move on. Again, Snyder was screwed. Let's just all agree to that and just let it go at this point. If he is not going to just simply, if he doesn't have the ability, to release what he's got, which I don't believe he does, I think that he needs to just be enough with it, talk about exactly what was going to happen so that we could say, hey, and then just move on from this
Hmm.
point. I am so sick and tired of seeing these ridiculous release the Snyder Cut things. It's not happening, people. Right now, it's been shown it's not going to happen. So, yeah. But Wonder Woman 3, yay. She's actually going to be in the present day. Plus, there's going to be spin offs of Wonder Woman. That says a lot. That says a whole lot. One of those spin-offs is going to be about the Amazonians, which, duh.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing that she released. But there's going to be spin-offs about the Amazonians. So, all right, cool.
With Nubia.
That would be cool if they had Nubia in it. I would not be averse to that at all.
And will the spin-off be a series or a movie?
I believe it's supposed to be a movie from what they're indicating.
Okay.
If there are going to be TV shows, I think that could actually be even better in some regards. It won't be nearly as high key, but right now the DC streaming service, I'm just gonna, because this is a perfect segue, is pretty much dead at this point. It's in doubt. They don't know anything else about what's going to happen with that. HBO Max, which I love the term HBO Max. It's like HBO Max, not maximum, Cinemax. That's what it's supposed to be. It's
Oh,
funny because when you think about it, everybody knows what Cinemax is. Look, you got HBO, great programming. You got Showtime, great sports. You've got Encore and Stars. People just trying really hard, but pretty good series, pretty good series. And then you got Cinemax, also known as Skinemax. That's where all the naked chicks are.
mm,
That's where you get the full frontal. So yeah, I love HBO Max. I love the name of that. But HBO Max is going to be showing everything. Doom Patrol 2 is set to premiere there, and the DC streaming service, which is owned by the same exact company. WB is not interested in doing anything outside of comic books with the DC streaming service. So they're good for another year. They've got a contract for another year, but after that, they're like, yeah, it's probably not going to go anywhere.
mm,
So my recommendation for the future, which is potentially a good thing, just feel free to get rid of your DC streaming service and get the HBO Max thing, because June next month, that's actually when Doom Patrol 2 is season 2 is scheduled to premiere. I loved that TV show. Did you watch it?
no.
Oof, you're missing out, dude. You can borrow my DVD copies.
Nice. Mm.
What else? You mentioned Superman
Superman
and
and Lois
Lois.
on CW.
Yeah. So here's the funny thing with that. They are stepping away from, and this was actually news last week that I just kind of didn't even bother, looking at. You weren't interested. Nobody was really interested in it. But then I started looking at it a little bit more a couple days later. I'm like, oh, wow, there's actually a story here. And it kept on developing. Now, again, I'm not into the whole rumor mill. I'm not comicbooknews.com or any of those nonsensical CBR, whatever those things are, saying this is comic book university. We actually talk about the facts here.
Mm,
So rumors be damned. But the straight up talk is that there is not going to be anything with Superman for at least another year, minimum another year, which means that the whole Tyler Holm, whatever that dude's name is, the guy who's playing Superman in the CW, they brought him back. They put him in for a lot of good stuff. They're talking about, hey, man, we can actually make a TV series with him. So they're going to go back to doing a Superman and Lois instead of doing the Lois and Clark TV
yeah.
series that they did before, which is actually really famous. It was really popular back during its time, but they're going to be doing Superman and Lois TV show now in the CW, which cool, because I've talked about this before. You can't have the movie verse always has first dibs. So if you're going to have Superman in a movie, you can't have Superman in a TV series. That's just the way that the Warner Brothers works.
Okay.
the writer, yeah, the writers, the directors mostly are able to say, I don't want any confusion. So the Flash was actually in jeopardy. Grant Gustin, I think his name is. The Flash TV series, which was it still is extremely popular, was actually in jeopardy. They didn't know the future of it because, oh crap, they're having the Flash and the Justice League movie. They're not going to want the confusion, and
Yeah.
it was enough fans saying, "Dude, we love the show," so that didn't happen. It's the reason why you have Batwoman instead of Batman, because Batman can be made into a movie, like that. Doesn't take anything. They're going to make another Batman movie. Everybody knows that, but they're afraid to have any confusion between the CW verse and so on. So yeah.
I think the audiences now are more sophisticated and they have a better understanding of that this is their own kind of universe and what matters here and then the series over on your TV are the series on TV.
It's like saying, "Oh man, but Adam West was Batman." There was a Batman who was not particularly well built. I'm saying, so maybe that's the kind of Batman that Pattinson's going to be portraying. But what do you call it? Like you have Batman from back then. So as anybody can confuse or shark repellent Batman with modern day Christopher Nolan Batman with Ben Affleck Batman and the new Batman that's going to show up at some point or another. I mean,
Yeah, but because it's happening at the same time, that's part of their argument.
yeah, I like you said, I think that we're all a little bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah. I, yes, period. It's that simple. I feel like it's a non-story. There's a lot of non-stories that we're gonna talk about today, like Deadpool and Rob Liefeld and how he says there's nothing planned for Deadpool. I can't believe what are these guys doing? They've got Shang-Chi and the Eternals instead of doing Deadpool. And my response to that is,
Shut up.
hell yeah. Marvel Studios isn't putting out X-Men. They're not putting out Fantastic Four. Why? Because they actually plan things. They had the next 5 years set in stone, and they can't compromise that. They're not going to shove in a Deadpool somewhere where he doesn't belong. Maybe if something like that happens, okay, you'll get a cameo, you'll get a short moment, but they're not going to make a third Deadpool movie fit in their cinematic universe because unlike everything else you've known before, Rob Liefeld, this is a plan and you can't just barge in. Here I am right after the Fox deal goes through. You got to wait your 5 years. I'm waiting for Wolverine and Cyclops. I'm sure going to wait for Deadpool. I'm sure, like, I'm waiting for the Fantastic Four. We're not even getting them. Those are like the main characters of Marvel or the X-Men, you can argue. And we don't even got them. We're not going to get Deadpool. He just wants his check. Does he get a check?
Yes, that's exactly what he said. In fact, he's like, "Whatever, man. Just make whatever movie. I don't care if whether it passes or whether it succeeds or fails. I still get a fat check." So basically, this is Rob Liefeld having fun with it, but at the same time also acknowledging to fans because there's such a thing as allegory. You can equate what somebody says based on what they say. You're just saying, "Oh, I'm not saying this thing, but I'm technically saying this thing." He's basically saying he doesn't care about the fans. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He just wants that fat check. Yes, they do actually all get a check. I was talking about this with Comic Boom. We went on for like about an hour and a half ranting about 5 things each. So it's 10 things that bother us about modern day comics. But yeah, we went on for a long time ranting about this stuff. But one of the things he was asking about was, do writers get it, or writers, or do the creators of comic books get a commission? I said, from the comic books, I believe no, they absolutely do not. But when it comes to movies, they do.
Mhm.
Because even if you're not actually in the writers union, you are still a creator. So writer and artist, whoever's credited as the creator of so and so comic or character, if the movie is being made of it, there are already rules in place, and I love these kinds of regulations. There are rules in place that the creators must get a check. Now, I don't know how they determine the check. Is it like a percentage of the making of the movie or the estimated, gross? Like I honestly don't know,
Yeah.
but I do know that they do all get a check if you are credited as a creator by the comic book companies who did what. So yeah, Liefeld's just waiting for his check.
Yeah, clearly. So is it 5G or G5 or dead?
It's dead. 5G is essentially dead. Scott Snyder was talking about this and he's like, yeah, essentially 5G is dead. It's been shelved probably permanently. ever since the firing of Dan DiDio. And this is something that a lot of us, I'm not going to say that and be like, I knew. No, I don't know anything. I guessed, and everybody, a lot of other people guessed also. I don't know how much news this is, but Scott Snyder pretty much acknowledged, yeah, nobody's talking about 5G in the offices at DC at this point. In fact, the only thing that any of them are really focused on is death metal, which probably makes Mr. Snyder very happy.
Yeah. Did you see that Zoom phone call with all the X-Men writers? There was about 9 of them.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Jordan D. White, who's the senior editor at Marvel for X-Men,
For
posted a
X-Men, yeah.
picture. You got Hickman and Teenie Howard and Zeb Wells, all of them.
Wow. And what, this was on Marvel Entertainment?
This was on the Twitter account of Jordan D. White.
On the and I gotta go back and hey, can you hold on? And I'm gonna go and check that out really quick. I'm joking. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
So that just reminded me of that when you were talking about how there's no talking about 5G and stuff. Okay, well it's dead. Moving on.
Shelved. Yeah.
Star Trek.
Okay. Star Trek is actually a really fun one. With the fairly massive success of Picard, and a lot of people talking, there's people talking bad about it too, but there are more people talking positively about it. So there's that. My wife loves Picard, saying for whatever. Um, again, I just know there's a lot of negativity that came at it my way. And it's like, okay, cool, bro. But more people said that they like it. So I'm not disqualifying what you're saying, but yeah. There's going to be a new Star Trek series being put out called Strange New Worlds, and it's going to be featuring Captain Pike. It's going to be focusing on Captain Pike. Most of us did I say Star Wars? Star Trek.
You said Star Trek.
Okay, good. Most of us Star Trek fans, especially of the original series, we know that Captain Pike was actually the captain who was in charge of the Enterprise before Captain Kirk came along, and that Spock was actually his first mate, also his first officer.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very interesting. Now, here's the trick. Enterprise was already a television show where the first Enterprise was that guy from Married with Children was on it, the neighbor, the second husband, the neighbor. Anyway, he's been on a bunch of different shows. I think it was Quantum Leap. Anyway, there was that, and then there's the Star Trek, the original series. So the only thing that would have been in between is the story of Captain Pike. Awesome. In fact, the original series, the very first episode, the pilot episodes, I should say, did actually feature Captain Pike, and they referred to him later on in the J.J. Abrams series, the Kelvin Universe, as they call it. Anyway, the only thing we know about it is that Anston Mount, I believe, is going to be playing Captain Pike. Rebecca Romaine, she used to be Rebecca Romaine Stamos. I guess she divorced him, so which means that she's free to be hanging out with me. How you doing? Anyway, who played Mystique, mind you, not Jennifer Lawrence, but prior to her, the good Mystique. That was Rebecca Romaine. I said it.
She had a cameo in one of the Jennifer Lawrence Mystique movies when she was like, "You want something older?" And then Jennifer Lawrence turned into your girl.
Oh, that's funny. Wow. Yeah. Oh, was that in the Dark Phoenix?
No, it wasn't Dark Phoenix. It might have been Days of Future Past. Maybe she was just laying on the bed.
Huh. Oh, and then Ethan Peck is also going to be in it for something. Probably going to be playing Spock. He looks a little bit like the young version of Spock. So honestly, that's fun. I'm cool with it. If they're going to be doing some more stuff and they're going to be trying to stick with continuity, dude, bring it at me. I'll watch it or I won't.
All right, now I know nothing about Star Trek, and you mentioned continuity, which is like, ooh, does this mean that it's all like similar to Star Wars? There's like one big timeline, and they just recast characters to play, Spock, and yeah, that's how it is. They've never done.
They've never done.
They never done like an ultimate universe where, well, the J.J. Abrams films matter over here, but it's never been.
No, the J.J. Abrams universe is called the Kelvin Universe. That is different and this gets into the deep-seated stuff that I don't know how many fans are familiar with this, but there's CBS that has always done the Star Trek stuff, and then there's Paramount, and Paramount was like, "Hey, we'd like to buy the license," and they're like, "Well, we'll let you have, but and that was J.J. Abrams verse. It's like, well, yeah, you can use the characters, but the merchandise stuff goes to us unless there's a radical change on the merchandise. So like, oh, well then we have to change some things.
Mhm.
So they did what is it, like 70% change so they could keep most of the change stuff. So if something looks different, the uniform's different, stuff like that. I don't think the storyline matters, but this was mostly over merchandise. And unfortunately, that's just that. In case anybody's curious, every time that I say, "Oh, but the merchandise rights, but the merchandise," oh, but can you make merchandise off the movies or the TV show? That is such a huge driving factor. It's one of the highest driving factors of the success or failure of a movie. You loving a movie has nothing to do with if they make another movie.
Yeah.
Did they sell the merchandise? Because if not, if you went and saw the movie 6 times, that's cool. Did you buy a mug? Did you buy the underwear or the socks like we were talking about, not too long ago? Did you buy the toys? Because if you didn't support the movie the way that they need you to support the movie.
Yeah.
So there's that. But anyway, so that's why there's that divide. So they said, so since it's so different, they said, well, then you can't use our timeline and stuff like that. And we need to, since you made it more popular, now we're going to go and start making popular stuff too. And they brought in Discovery and Picard, and now they're going to be doing Strange New Worlds. And it's like, okay, but there's still this stuff over here, the J.J. Abrams universe, 3 movies, man. So yeah, and then comic books based off of it too. I don't know, man.
So the J.J. Abrams is a jumping on point. If I know nothing about Star
It,
Trek,
yes, you can use that as a jumping on point. And they're really just rehash it. Well, the second movie especially is just a rehash of Search for Khan, which was the second of the movies over there. Jumping on point,
well,
honestly,
there's a
pick a
jump
TV
off point.
series.
There's a
Nah,
jump off point after 3 movies, so it doesn't really count. They're not
yeah,
gonna ever do anything with that, I doubt.
yeah, probably not. If you ever want to jump on and see a good Star Trek movie, go see the I think it's the ninth one.
Mm.
Um, Crap, what was that one called? Star Trek. It's the one with the Borg. Somebody will mention who it is. Totally worth it, man. Amazing movie to me. I'll try and remember what that was called. But
Now, with
the only other thing I have to report on that is, how they've got like beam me up and or warp drive and go to full warp number one and yeah,
yeah,
stuff like that. They've always
live
got
long,
yeah,
prosper.
live long and prosper. They've got a new way to say warp speed and stuff like that or energize. They've got a new thing and they've got hit it. So that's just something that I'm noticing because Anston Mount said, well, the only other thing that needs to be said about this is hit it. And that was pretty much like the end of the stream where it's like, well, hit it usually means start something. So I'm presuming that, not assuming, I'm presuming
Yeah.
that what this basically means is that that's going to be the way that he says, hey, let's get to, warp drive, hit it.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of Power Rangers, which came out like in '99. They would say, "Let's rock it," and they would morph. Maybe they got it from Star Trek.
Wow.
So when they do merchandising for Mandalorian this time around, now that it's a known secret,
First contact. Sorry. Very important. I had to do it.
the ninth
First.
film of Star Trek is called First Contact.
Yes, and it's a great movie. You will love it. It
Okay.
could potentially make you a Star Trek fan.
Yeah. All right. I'll give it a look-see.
Nice.
Ahsoka, Boba Fett, we know that these characters are going to be back in Mandalorian. Does that give these guys a reason to make toys for them and prepare the toys starting from now, since we know it's coming?
Yeah, there's still Star Wars toys being made right now. Star Trek toys start coming out about that time. All the toys start coming out that time. You know what's another toy that's probably going to come out? I forgot to mention. They've
Hmm.
already got an actor to play the Phantom Stranger in the Lois and Clark TV series, which Phantom Stranger is like next level powerful. You're talking about, could potentially beat up Ghost Rider. I mean, Phantom Stranger is no joke. Um, right? Phantom Stranger, is that what they said? Oh, just the Stranger. But yeah, it looks like the Phantom Stranger. Excuse me. Do they have a actor Wool Parks who played in Devious Maids and The Next Caller, which is weird, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, their merchandise is key to everything. Bed sheets, you know what I'm saying? Just air fresheners, whatever they can sell, because that's where they get that's where the license fees come in. They get a cut of those merchandise fees, and they don't have to do any work. It's like, pay me to make merchandise and then give me a cut of the merchandise, you know?
Hmm.
So
So that's probably is why we know about the Mandalorian and the secrets have come out. It's like, okay, well, we can do toys about it now. It was,
that that's one of the ways that we find out so much about the future of TV series is because or even movies, because the merchandise, they of course have to let people know about the merchandise first, like, hey, I need you to make this and this and this, here's the designs. So they'll make the merchandise, they'll figure, what can actually sell, and then they make the merchandise, and then they've got to try and keep that secret. God forbid somebody leaks what the next Funko Pop looks like, and people now know that one of the pilots, Hera something from, I think she's from Rebels or
hold on a minute, hold on a
Resistance.
minute. People might not want to hear the end of the sentence.
Okay, okay,
Please and
but
thank
that she could potentially show up somewhere,
you. Yeah, right.
somewhere,
And
because that is the way.
you're the
I'm such
worst.
an a-hole. I am such an a-hole, aren't I?
Nah, man, it's all right. I maybe I would have heard that somewhere else. I don't.
But they simply had it as a Funko Pop release, and it's like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah,
So people are speculating. Again, it's a rumor, and I don't take rumors seriously. So I apologize to somebody, including you, Chill, are actually bothered by that. My bad.
it's nothing major. She wasn't one of my favorites. I mean, once you do Ahsoka and once you do Boba Fett, it's like yeah, those
Right.
are like
What else are you going to throw in that's going to make me go, oh?
yeah, unfortunately. But I'm sure like the baby Yiddle slipped under the radar
Thank
because
you.
there's no knowledge of who this character even is. We don't know what the fan base is. We can just do this character and not have a toy for it. And I'm sure Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau look at that.
They finally released the Yiddle. It's the Yiddle. It's not the child. They finally released the freaking toy. You know what I'm saying? And I showed this on one of my live streams 2 weeks ago. I still have the character here because I'm afraid my kids are going to steal it. Comes with the little frog. Comes with a bowl so it can sip its onion soup. I love
Mhm.
onion soup, and it comes with a little knob that it can suck on. Yes, I did that exactly the way that I meant to do it. Anybody in England right now is laughing their ass off.
Podcast listeners, go to the 32-minute mark of this video and you'll get to see the little Yiddle. It's really little.
Yeah, the little Yiddle toy, but it is in the 1/12 scale. So yeah,
Hmm.
you can literally have little baby Yiddle running around with you. Like, it finally came in the mail 2 weeks ago.
Man,
So through Amazon pre-order. Finally came in. They finally have the first 1/12 size, it's the 6-inch tall figures. Wow. Took forever.
man. You know what else took forever? The New
What that?
Mutants. Apparently, allegedly, it's coming out on August the 28th of 2020. That's what they say.
So I can hold my breath for it?
No, you don't want to do that
No.
because they'll change the order of it. I like it though. I think it's never been more valuable, never had more of a purpose. This coming right after when most of the country's movie theaters will open up. When I say the country, I mean your guys' country. Um August 28th will be a nice new thing to put out in the theaters. You're not going to have much competition. And just because a movie comes out on August 28th doesn't mean it's not still going to be out September 28th. So that might be the first movie that people want to see while they go to the theaters. It's not like it's going to get replaced by something else because everyone's blockbuster, like Fast and Furious, it moved over to next year. And
Yeah.
there's other films I can't think of, Wonder Woman, that moved over to next year because they're not risking it. And then
Yeah.
that's just going to be in the theaters because there's nothing to replace it. It's going to be eating.
Yeah. I don't know who has say over it, because I know that that money, for the most part, goes completely, if not if not completely, then almost completely to Fox, because it was their movie. You know what I'm saying? If it was up to Marvel, they'd be like, yeah, cancel it. We don't need it. It's just going to interfere. And this is one of those cases where people could actually be confused. Oh, is this going to relate to the stuff? Is this the first time they're appearing in the MCU? No, this is not an MCU movie. Marvel is just like, dude, screw you. But Fox did release it. It has to actually be released. They get the most of the money for it, if not all of it. Um,
I want to be clear. You're saying Fox in general, or do you mean 20th Century Fox, which Disney owns now?
no, no, no. Fox, the
Okay.
original company Fox, they get the money for this
I didn't
because
think
they
it
made
was
it.
that way. I thought it was Disney. I don't know otherwise, so I'll just take your word.
Yeah, no worries. And again, I could be wrong on anything, but from the reporting that came out like a year ago, that's the reason why, even though everybody was saying this X-Men movie, Dark Phoenix, sucks. I mean, you can't find too many people who are going to say anything better than it wasn't bad. Most people say it was bad, you know? I haven't met a single person who's like, I loved it. It was a great portrayal. No, I had fun with the movie. I've not met a single person. If you are that person, please write in because I really want to know your opinion on it. It's like, I'm not going to make fun of anybody. I'm not here to make fun of anybody. But I didn't see it. I don't have any interest in seeing it. That's just who I am. But Fox makes the money on that. That's why it had to be released
Yeah.
because in case the move, in case the deal didn't go through, well then they gotta have money coming in, and the only way to do that is by making movies. So that was either way, that's their money. So I think that Fox has something to do with the release date of that. I don't know for absolute sure, but I do know that the only way that this movie is going to make money is if it's one of the first slate of movies that's going to come out. I know there's a lot of people who are excited to see it. That's cool. If you're a fan of the New Mutants, you're interested in seeing this. If you're not a fan of the New Mutants, the likelihood of you being so excited to desperately see this movie, there's a huge drop off rate, you know? So, because
There's
like
no
they're not
big
putting the
star.
Marvel title on there. Nobody knows this is a Marvel movie right now for good reasons, right?
General fans, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying the general fans.
Uh-huh.
Nobody who's not a comic book fan knows anything about the New Mutants. They're just like, oh, this looks cool. New Mutants, huh? That sounds familiar. Is that a Marvel movie? No. Oh, okay. I didn't see Marvel on there, so okay, cool. So nobody's dying to see it that way. It's like maybe oh, a horror fan might be interested in seeing this,
Yes.
but anyway, the only way this is really going to make a good sizable chunk of change is if it's a summer release and if it's that summer movies have shown to make more money when they don't have backing of a huge, like MCU and
Yeah.
stuff like that behind it. That's why they usually put chick flicks on during the winter time, unless you're Lord of the Rings or something like that, which you have a huge name behind you, like Star Wars. Anyway, so this movie, yeah, come out, and they're just like, if this is the first movie if this is one of the slate of first movies that come out when the theaters are reopened, then we're gonna make a huge chunk of change off of it.
Oh yeah.
So
And with Dark Phoenix, I was trying to interpret how the studio, Marvel Studios, meddled with it. Did Kevin Feige purposefully change the villains who were spoilers? Sorry, Skrulls. Did he purposely change that so that in Captain Marvel it would be the first time we see Skrulls? There was a time when Magneto was on an island. They never called it Genosha in the movie. Is that because he's got some plans for a mutant island in his X-Men stories that he plans for 5 years in the making? Oh.
that's in Dark Phoenix.
In Dark Phoenix, Genosha, or there's an island of mutants and Magneto's in charge. They never call it Genosha, but what is it?
That's a good question. I don't know if Feige screwed with it or not. They might have. Who directed that movie?
Simon Kinberg?
Uh, yeah, I don't know that he's a huge X-Men fan.
Uh,
Simon Kingbird, I know that name,
he
and
did
it's not as
X-Men 3, Last Stand.
yeah. Why in God's green earth
Yeah.
would he would they ever say, "Hey, the guy who made the one of the two least popular X-Men movies, the other one being X-Men Origins Wolverine,
Uh-huh.
why not give him a second chance?"
Yeah, he can do the Phoenix right this time.
What?
So I'm
So
gonna be interested in the New Mutants to see what is being withheld. I'll get my magnifying glass and be like, they're not mentioning that person's name. Maybe there's a reason for it.
I don't think that they would. I don't think that they'd be allowed. I don't. I honestly don't know. But like interfering with the movie to handicap it, that seems like that would be a really dirty thing to do.
It's not necessarily to handicap it, but it's because we're gonna do these characters even better, scrolls. But there's a goal. It's not just to hurt them. It is because when we do it, we want it to be fresh, new, and exciting. We want that to be your first introduction to Genosha or Krakoa.
I guess.
Hmm?
I guess.
All right. I want to get on my digital comics kind of discussion.
Oh,
We got something called Ravencroft #3 that came out in March, 13,000 sales.
mhm.
On Comicron, that's physical comics that went to North America, and that's only an estimate, but I'm going to take it as the gospel. 13,000 sales. This month, they released digitally. If enough of those digital fans
Issue number 4.
of issue #4, yeah,
Yes. Which I reviewed on my channel. It's the only comic book review I did this week.
if we get all 13,000 of those fans
Mhm.
to buy digital, which didn't happen, but if that happened, Marvel would get more money than they would have gotten. Yes, your LCS is screwed, but they would have gotten more money because $4 gets cut multiple ways. You got Diamond who prints it, the shipping handling, and that's like $1 right there. The comic book store, they probably get $1. Out of every physical comic, Marvel gets $2. But for digital, I mean, once you pay the bandwidth or the internet service on Comixology, which is to Amazon, once you pay them that, the
Mhm.
rest of that $4 is yours. If enough fans would have switched over from physical sales to digital sales this month for these low selling books, which that's what they're doing, right? Like Spider Gwen or Ghost Spider, excuse me.
Yeah.
What's that book? 21,000 sales usually. If like 10,000 of those people just switched and bought a digital comic instead, then Marvel didn't lose anything at all, and they just bumped up their digital sales. And the younger fans get, the more time passes, the more tech savvy your fans are. The only guys buying this physical comics are the older guys for the most part. I know that's not, I retract that statement. That's not true. But I mean that it's more popular amongst the older fans. That's true.
Yeah.
Older readers are what's keeping the comic books alive. All the younger people, they'll go on digital. I think that's dangerous because once you're on your computer to look at comics, what's stopping you from going, man, I'm not gonna pay $4. Click, 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 and I find a naughty website and I'm right there. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So I think my point is that enough fans can switch over to make it to digital, and we're gonna lose the little guy. If you want, if you really want to read a comic book digitally, go ahead and buy the digital. But if they do release these comics in physical paper form, which they probably will, just to see how many people actually, left from physical to their digitals, which is going to happen, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, when Ravencroft #4 comes out, it's not going to get 13,000 sales of physical comics. It'll be lower than that. We'll see, and then sorry, not Diamond, but Marvel's going to be like, man, we can really do this because this comic shows that they don't mind whether they got to read it in digital or physical. This is how many people switched over. So 13,000 subtracted by whatever the actual comic book physical sales are, let's say 6,000 people, they'll be like, we just made eight. Let me do my math. What's 13 minus 6? 7. We just converted 7,000 people to digital comics at our first try. And they're only trying it with the little books. They're not doing this with the X-Men's and this Amazing Spider-Mans. They're doing it with the little books where they can afford that risk, and it's going to pay out.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh,
You're of course going to be looking at that if you're a major company like
mm,
Marvel, like Disney. There's no doubt people are going to be looking at that. I've often thought, I don't know if I've ever voiced this, but they should make a specific digital comic book feature. You know what I'm saying? That uh, not just an app, but more specifically like a specific format for a comic book and a PDF reader. I know some people can read it on their phones, some people choose to read it on their tablets and whatnot, but if they made a very specific, like call it the comic book portfolio or whatever, where it's a device mostly only for reading your comic books. And you got a very special comic book experience on there. Maybe you get like a motion uh, cover, you know what I'm saying? Like digitally motion exclusive cover, something like that for each comic
that's
book that you get.
yeah, I like that.
Right? So, and of course, the only place that you'd be allowed to buy it would be the comic book store. You know what I'm saying? Don't do it to Walmart. Don't forget, Walmart doesn't need that crap.
Mhm.
There's something special for the comic book stores. That's the way I would personally do it. I'm not about. That's just not my modus operandi. Is trying to like be as rich as possible. That's not who I am. Like I want enough to be able to survive, and then move on from there. And that's the way that I envision happen. Now, in reality, Amazon's going to have it. Saying Walmart's going to have it. Best Buy's going to have it. They're going to have their own special designs for it, but whatever. I just think that would be cool if Marvel did that. If the comic book companies, got together and said, here, here's the program to actually do this app, so that when they go and they can, instead of scanning their comic book on their computer or on their phone or whatever, they just scan it right there on the comic book app, and then boom, so they buy the physical comic book, boom, they got this. It also chronologically, this is also a way that you can just bring this device with you, and it says all the comic books that you own. So if you go to a comic book store and, hey, this is such and such, it goes right on. You scan it, and right away goes on that you bought this you own this comic book now. For
Yeah.
the collectors. You could put down a price on there. You could put down notes on there like, oh, this is the first appearance of so and so, and you could really categorize your comics from this point. That's something I've been thinking about for maybe a year or two, that comic book companies should do.
I like the idea of your software, but I don't think it should come with its own hardware. I think that just should be an app available on your iPads and your laptops and your phones, where you're reading, sorry, a comic, all right? But if you hold your thumb down, motion, you get, and you know how many things you could do with that, like Deadpool, he sees a hot woman, but if you activate the motion, all of a sudden his pants starts to rise, and we can all laugh at how silly that is.
Yeah, it's really not that hard. Anybody who's seen the Facebook Marvel Legends, Marvel Superheroes game, this was years and years ago, but there was a Facebook game where they would have animation, and there wasn't really that much animation to it at all, but it looked good, and it made the whole body move. And yeah, as easy as it is to do, if you ever look at my spotlights on stories, like my Black Knight or my Beta Ray Bill one, I use those exact same designs. And like the leg is separate from the arm, is separate from the other arm, from the torso and the head, and the cape, and I can just make it look like it's a fluid motion. But
Yeah.
it literally takes me like 20 minutes to put this thing together, and boom, I've got this great. And I'm not the most skilled person in the world. This is something I do once in a while. Somebody who's actually on that could do it a whole lot faster. So yeah, just some kind of a special thing where it's like you buy the comic book, you also get this, but you have to buy the physical comic also.
Oh, you have to buy the physical comic also?
100%.
But you're trying to keep the comic books alive. They're doing
I
this
am.
to kill physical comic books and comic book stores. They don't care about that.
They who?
Marvel, DC, whoever would do this.
DC, yes. Marvel, right now they're showing the opposite. They're definitely
Y-
showing the opposite. And plus DC, this is Jim Lee in there, but like I just talked to Jason Fabok earlier today, and he's like, I just want to have things that can go in the comic book store, that people can go to the comic book store and see other comics in the comic book store. That's all he talks about. Like we can't get rid of comic book stores. We can't try and work around comic book stores. It's definitely going to kill the industry if we do that, because there's no other place you can go to where it's a den of geek, where you just walk in and it's like the guy who owns it and all the people who work there and all the other people who are in there. Even if there's not, I know like Rob was talking trash about how many guys are in the comic book store if there's not, if it's not a Wednesday. Oh, it's
Yeah.
like two people. Rob, shut your mouth.
Hey,
You know,
if that's what he sees, that's what he sees. I'm not in
yeah,
Denver.
that's what he sees, but the guy also doesn't know. He's shown that he doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. Oh, they've got my comic book store has Magic the Gathering in it. Dude, so does mine. And it also sells candy. It's got a vendor inside that sells candy. It also sells statues and toys, and it sells cards, and it sells all these different things. And you know what?
It's
It's
successful.
still struggling. It's successful compared to other comic book stores, but comic book stores still struggle. Saying no, we have to keep the comic book stores alive, because you get rid of comic books. Hey, listen, if this guy wants to go off and get all of his freaking digital comic books, and we could speculate where he's actually getting these things from. Sure, hey, I could show you my physical comic books. I could show you my receipt if we want to. We want to play that game. Do we really want to play that game? Because that game works in both directions. Look, all I'm
Well,
saying
well,
is
well,
we go ahead.
no, never mind.
No,
I can't defend him because I don't actually know the answer to
no.
that question. But I
Hey,
do know he's got 1 million subscribers, and I don't think he's
yeah,
starving for cash. So
he's got more than
maybe,
that.
huh?
He's
Yeah.
got more than that.
So like, I'm not gonna say
YouTube doesn't give you that much money, dude.
when you have that many subscribers and your thing is comic
You're
books.
talking about ads. There's adpocalypses all the time. YouTube does not pay that many bills. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. What do you call it? You got to have other means like selling merchandise and stuff like that, which again, I don't do. But I mean, no. You,
I've seen the man's home in live streams. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure he's not scraping by, so I don't doubt that he's
Oh,
buying these comics.
okay, cool, cool. You got to do you got to take off that autofocus. You can't do it now. You got to
Yeah.
do it next time.
Okay. Podcast
No,
listeners, my face just went out of focus and I was trying to fix that.
yeah,
That's
you
all.
look better. Oh, you almost look like Robert Pattinson.
Oh my God.
Anyway, take that. Anyway, yeah, I think that the whole thing that he was just talking about, sometimes people open their mouth. You think that they know a whole lot about things, and hey, he knows a whole lot about different comic books and whatnot. But when it comes to comic book stores, sorry, bruh. When I actually get to go in and hang out with the comic book store owners, not just one, multiple, when I'm on live streams, with the Be Our Heroes Canada, and I'm talking to multiple comic book store owners on the same day, on the same live stream and whatnot. Nah, when I get to actually see a lot of, the prices, the income, that comes in and whatnot, when I get to, go behind the scenes and I get to talk to all these people, nah, I think I know a little bit more than Rob. I'm not I'm not here to start trying to pick a fight with the guy. That's not who I am. But when you start making ridiculous comments about comic book stores just have to try harder, that sounds a lot like pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And anybody who lives in a poor neighborhood understands how almost impossible that is. Oh, you said almost impossible, right? No, I don't want to hear about pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You know what I'm saying? When your whole business, you're in there because you're a fan. There's no other business out there where you're going to have all fans in a store, owners, workers, what do you call it, local people and whatnot, where you can go in and actually find more about comic books. You know what sells comic books? Comic book stores. Going on an app and then saying, oh, especially there's no editor's notes in comic books anymore for the most part. If there's a comic book out there, like who's going to tell you? What are you going to go on freaking Reddit and ask
Mhm.
a question in toxic ass Reddit? Hey, uh, where did I find that one issue where Thor put his hand out really quick and he was able to telegraph what's his name, Quicksilver's move and knock him unconscious when he was doing the whirlwind around him. Oh, you don't know anything about comics, man. No, first you got to read this and this and this. And oh, you don't know. Oh, what are you talking about? Nah, dude, you're talking about toxicity to the extreme. A comic book store, stuff like that doesn't happen. You know?
And I think that what he saw in his store is what he was talking about. And that's what he said happens in my store. He never tried to sell you what happens in your store.
Comic book stores need to, do other things, not just comic books. Carlos, he's 20, not even 30% of his sales comes from comic books. It's
Damn.
understood. Like what, according to Rob, apparently, comic book stores are also supposed to sell car insurance. You know what I'm saying? Like what the hell, dude? What the hell? It's a
Well, whose fault is it that it's a dying industry? Comic books
the
don't sell.
fault doesn't matter. The fault, I don't see the fault as
Okay.
actually mattering.
Okay.
When comic book stores are doing all the things that, like, this is one of those things where it's literally like it's like the boomer. Like I'm gonna go there. If you're old, you got a lot of good stuff that the rest of us don't have. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the facts. But if you're a boomer and you're talking down to Gen X, you're talking down to what do you call the millennials? You're talking down to the Zoomers, the Generation Z. You're talking down to all the younger generations who didn't benefit from the New Deal, from FDR's New Deal. If you're talking to somebody who is never going to be able to save up enough money to buy a home,
Hmm.
right? If you're talking and they don't have the equity that you have of a home, saying of a paid off mortgage and all that stuff. We just don't have that. It's really great to go into, to go and start talking about you just need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to do the best you can. Maybe you got to get a second job. Excuse me, I actually have 3 jobs. So I don't understand what your complaint is. Well, maybe you just need to go to school and do better. Well, I actually went to school. I have a bachelor's degree. I'm working on a master's degree while I'm working 2 or 3 jobs.
Well, then maybe you need to choose an industry that's not dying.
Understood, but it's not just about see again, that's a boomer statement because what industry isn't dying? Is manufacturing doing well with all the jobs going overseas? And
Okay.
again, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. At the end of the day, when you can't get a job except working in a McDonald's, if you don't have a college degree, you got to get a college degree. But even those college degree jobs don't work as well as we'd like to think they were. In 2000, when no 2002, when the tech industry took a major nosedive, my job as a guy with a bachelor's degree was replaced by a guy with a master's, and his job was replaced by a guy with a PhD. And they just had the PhD guys work harder
Mhm.
because those jobs still had to be taken care of. A lot of us just got replaced because of like we can't afford everybody here, so of course the some of the lower guys have to go. Oh, so I guess I should work on getting more education. Okay, but then there's the guys with the experience. It's a slippery slope where if all of the jobs are moving overseas, like what do you do? This has turned into more economics, but I'm okay with it. At the end of the day, basically Rob is the boomer who's, Gran Torino, he's Clint Eastwood saying, "Get off my lawn, young person." When you're saying comic book stores just need to do this like my comic book store, Rob, most of the comic book stores are doing that. And maybe if you got out of your lovely big house, whatever, a little bit more often, you'd see that. But his statement was bogus. His statement came from a level of pure ignorance. When you open your mouth and you clearly don't know what you're talking about, brah, I hate to, and I know I'm going to get some hate from this because I was watching that. I wasn't watching it live, but I was still able to watch in the time when I could see the comments streaming, and people are like, "Yeah, Rob, you're right. Preach." What are you people talking about?
Yeah, I don't know how you can cheerlead that. He's just giving his opinion on his perspective.
Yeah,
It's
what
not
what is
something.
what
And
is it to cheer in the first place?
yeah, it's coming from ignorance for sure, but he's also acknowledging that by just telling you it's from his. But to answer my question from like a minute ago, um,
No, he didn't even say, well, I guess he said it's just his opinion. I don't know, I don't care. At the end of the day, what qualifies him to make these statements?
yeah, he's the Rob Comics Explained guy with 2 million subscribers, and he buys comic books. That's what qualifies him. What qualifies me from talking about it?
Uh, what qualifies me is actually talking to the comic book owners, being friends with the comic book owners, going to these stores all the time, actually seeing a lot of these records, seeing the behind the scenes stuff and whatnot. Just, I don't know, man. I would listen more to a comic Tom in this particular instance than I would listen to a Rob. And I don't care about the subscriber numbers. I don't care about the subscriber base. I'm talking about the level of what you know versus what you don't, what you clearly, evidently, by your own mouth, don't know. These companies are doing that, Rob. Thank you for like you're not even handing us bootstraps to pick ourselves up by. You know what I'm saying? Like, geez.
Well, the thing about the comic book industry, why would they choose an industry that's dying to get in the business of? The answer to that question is also that these guys have been around. No one made a new comic book store as of last year, right? These have been around for years and years and years, and it just so happens that they're declining. What I could be saying is they need to learn when it's time to get out. Can you hear that background noise?
Whatever. Not when you're
All right.
talking.
You can hear. You can. Sorry. You can.
Get the feel of when it's time to get out of the business.
There's that,
Well,
and then there's also
but
that.
who wants to do that? We're going to be talking about houses, sure. So if you're living in a house and all of a sudden the neighborhood goes to crap, that happens, right? Okay, cool. When do you say I'm going to sell? Do you say no? I think that it's not going to keep going. Oh, I couldn't sell my house. Like there's so many other factors out there. Do you just pick up and leave? What do you do from that point on? You've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What do you do? You're a business owner and you're going to what? Go out and get a job now?
Yeah, yes, you leave, and the sooner the better, because this is no longer viable for me. You got to realize that and go. And maybe the other comic book stores in the neighborhood, if there are others in the neighborhood, will benefit from it because the customer base will shift over there.
It's not a very conservative mindset, but hey, I also
It's
don't see it as progressive.
it's funny how opposite we are on the conversation from like 3 weeks ago about AMC and Universal and how the streaming versus, huh?
Yes. Yes.
Because
Solid, good point.
you were
But there's
telling me
also
about digital and sorry, go ahead. I don't like interrupting you. I do it all the time.
I don't mind. Plus I talk too much, so go ahead.
The digital is the way of the future, and going
Mhm.
to theaters is passe. You got to come home and stream. Technology has come to that. Well, And then over here, I'm talking about tech, and I'm on the side of that for digital comics.
I am not going to say that I'm not being hypocritical in this.
No, you're not, because they're different. One is a movie and one is a
No,
comic.
no, no. I'm not going to say that I am not being hypocritical. Double negative. I'm being a little bit hypocritical in this. I do look at it as, again, I do look at it as when you got the big brother and you're not going to try and, that was my big argument, that it's specifically the Chinese companies that are doing this. And they're doing this because they know that they have the backing of the Chinese government behind them. And this is something that we can see. It's not even circumstantial. It's being reported in the news that Chinese companies, Chinese everything is saying the government supports me, they don't support you. So, boom, like if you coming from a place of power and saying, I am not going to do business anymore with you,
Hmm.
cut off. That is a ballsy thing to do. That is really ballsy.
Well, Chinese or British or whoever they are, I think it is the right thing to do because this stream of money that was coming in my pocket is not coming anymore if I let you guys do this VOD. So I'm gonna cut
What
it
if,
off here.
yeah, okay, but very publicly doing something like, what if they were instead go behind closed doors and say, hey, like the Kevin Feige thing, like I said with Amy Pascal, hey,
Hmm.
bud, did you just get finished saying that you're going to continue looking to do video on demand at the same time instead of keeping that 1 month window for movies? Oh, well, listen, bud, I'm not here to make threats, but I'm going to make a threat. If you ever say something like that again, my backers are telling me we're going to cut you off completely, which means that from this point on, I want you to, or even if you're not going to make a threat and just saying, listen, bud, you doing that, you know that you're not going to get the cinema, you're not going to get in the awards category. You know how much money people make from all of a sudden it's like you got the Academy Award for such and such and such. If you skip us, you never get mentioned in that again.
Yeah.
It's like, and if you're going to skip on some of the movies and not all of them, dude, I don't know why we're trying to work for in your benefit as opposed to my benefit. It's like there's a way to say something, especially, like here in Canada, everything is about word salad. Everything's about finding a way to, even if you're going to insult someone, you say it in a very classy way. You don't just call somebody a mother effer. You know what I'm saying? That usually
Stop
doesn't
giving out.
happen.
Stop giving out the secrets.
Oh, dude, America's the only country that just comes straight out and calls you a mother effer. Most of the other countries are much more sophisticated than us, you know? But it is what it is, dude. So that's what I'm saying. It's different in the sense that with the slightly different in the sense that with comic book companies, excuse me, comic book owners, they're just like, dude, it's their business. This is what they've been doing. You
Hmm.
can't tell grandma, hey, the neighborhood's falling to crap. If you want to get that money, you need to jump in here and do whatever. Nah, they don't care. Hey, man, the climate is really going to crap. When 99% of the scientists are saying this, it's not a freaking conspiracy. Nobody's paying off 99% of the science. Do you know how many scientists there are? So when we say the climate is going to crap, you know why old people don't care? Because they're not going to be here when it happens. When they turn around and say, hey, man, Medicare for people, you know what I'm saying? Old people are like, we already have that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing you can offer old people except we're going to keep what you've got. If we say, hey, we want to expand it to other people, they're like, so how does that benefit me? Now I'm going to vote with somebody else. Like that's what always said. The person who says I'm not going to change, that's the people who people usually vote for, especially if you're old. So like for me, I literally look at it as if I've got a business, hey, you're struggling, you're trying to do all these different things to make your business better, but it's also a case of if we're both buds. If I'm helping you out with something and I've been helping you out for years, decades, and all of a sudden I turn around and say, hey, I could use your help. Who's the scumbag if you say no?
Yep.
So, and that's the way I look at it. The comic book companies have been in business almost solely because of what Jim Shooter did with the local comic book stores and said, you know what? We're going to hook you guys up big time. We're going to benefit ourselves also, but we're going to hook you guys up big time. And a book like Dazzler #1 can outsell Superman. How does that happen? How does that happen? How, it can outsell Batman. How does that happen? Except the idea that it was very successful. And if it's not successful for them at this day, but the comic book companies are saying, dude, we've always been there. We're there for you now. Because if right now, based on what you're saying, maybe all the local comic book stores should get together and say, you know what? We're selling our business and we're out. What happens to the comic book companies?
We need a franchise comic book stores. But yeah, that would be it.
Wow, imagine that. A DC comic book company. But then the Marvel decides to boycott them.
No,
DC
not like
boycotts
that. Not like
Marvel.
that. But I mean, like, you got Gotham Central, but what if they buy a comic book store in Toronto and they call it Gotham High, and then they buy one in Calgary and they call
You
it
already
Gotham,
lost me at Gotham High.
Gotham Stampede? But like they could have a voice, and then
In the Gotham family.
yeah, they'd have their own kind of chain of things.
Eh.
That'll be useful.
Eh.
Oh,
Businesses
one.
come and businesses go. But like if the fast food industry was dying because all of a sudden the meat companies were like, yeah, we don't care about the quality of our meat anymore. Shouldn't it be like, yeah, I think you should care about the quality of your meat because people aren't coming to our restaurants anymore? I'm just saying.
Well, you think they do care about the quality of their meat now? Yeah, they just do the standard minimum.
I
Something
agree.
you were,
But
yeah.
there's a hush hush about it, and there's boycotts. If you Oprah Winfrey saying I may never eat a hamburger again, and she gets sued by every single meat company. That's some crap. Like what happened to freedom of speech? You never heard of that?
No, that's funny.
Oh yeah, that's actually the reason why Dr. Phil came into prominence. God damn it, Oprah, because she had to go and see a shrink because she was actually feeling so much stress from this, and she happened to be in Texas, and that's where Dr. Phil was.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a thing that's 100% Canadian beef. It says on the doors.
Oh yeah.
And when I read that, I just think, well, it's probably 100% made in Canada. They're not necessarily saying the beef is 100% cow. There might be some other stuff that's added in there.
Well, then it wouldn't be beef.
But they're just saying that it's 100% Canadian. And if enough of it is
Oh
beef, then they can call
yeah,
it beef.
it's a possibility.
Yeah, I can call this coffee even though it's 90% water, right? Something you said earlier, what I didn't want to interrupt, but like we don't get editor's note in our comics anymore. Now that
Mhm.
we're doing digital comics where we get motion when we press, we could also get a minute and a half of just the writer talking about the comic that he just wrote, and he can record that as he's sending the email with the script, and you can just say this happens, this happens, this happens. Maybe you get a minute of the artist talking about it, but it costs nothing, and I'm sure they want to actually explain some things that happen, maybe even answer some questions. That's let's use digital and make it something special. But I'm also so pro comic books. Like when I buy Ironheart 2020 that comes out on Wednesday,
Mm.
when the comic is actually available, if they do make a comic, I'm also going to purchase the physical comic from my LCS because I don't want to wrong this guy. I pre-ordered this like a few months ago. I'm going to go and make good on that deal. Plus I want to have the comic. Um that's about the only one though. Every other comic book, I'll wait. If they made X-Men digital, I'm gonna wait for the physical comic to come out because I gotta support my guys. So
Mm.
before it sounds like I'm just pro digital rah. I am pro LCS. All right.
Yeah, that's cool. It'd be cool if they put it out. First off, dirty trick, making your silly claim about coffee and water, and then right away going to another subject. But
Oh,
that's cool.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. It's fine. I think everybody can look at that and just be like, he kind of makes a point, but yeah, no, that's kind of what we do. It's like, um, what do you call it? The with those comics, I think they're just missing out on a huge deal by not saying buy the digital comic book, and then when the physical copy comes out, peel off the thing, use the code, and then. But there's probably going to be people who don't want to peel the code. But whatever, if they don't have a problem with it, like I don't have a problem with it, peel off the code, boom, and you get rebated that money when you buy it at the comic book store. Yeah,
If they cared about your comic book store, they would do that.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's a lot of extra work. It's a whole lot of extra work, but they could absolutely do that. And say we're gonna, refund you such and such if you buy digital through us. But then it would kind of be screwing over Comixology, you know?
To quote one Demi Lovato, oh, I really don't care.
Yeah, but when Comixology is owned by Amazon, you don't
They
want to screw
really,
over Amazon.
they
Yeah,
really do care. With
yeah,
redeemable comic book codes that you can peel and CGC, does it make it less valuable?
yes,
Oh, too bad.
yeah, it does.
Okay. I want to get into
Anything else?
Chill's headcanon before we go.
Uh-oh.
There's
Okay.
that scene in Thor Ragnarok when Hela takes Thor's hammer and smashes it into smithereens.
Crushes it. Yes.
She's not worthy. How is this possible? She was holding it in place.
She
My
was worthy. She was the previous owner of the hammer.
She was worthy of holding the hammer even though she was evil.
Yeah.
Remember in Thor in Endgame, he got that hammer back and he held it and he's like, I'm still worthy. He had questions about it because he gave up being a hero.
Yeah. But well, she always held the hammer. Like she was holding the hammer in the paintings. Like that was her hammer.
Yes.
Before she outgrew it.
Before she went dark, I'm sure she couldn't hold that hammer afterwards. Or maybe there wasn't an enchantment on the hammer. Maybe the first time in the MCU the enchantment comes on is when Odin actually.
Yeah, in the beginning, that's when he's like, whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, that's when he put the thing on. It was after technically.
So I'm saying she wasn't worthy. The only way she got
Mm.
around to doing that move was power. It was coming this direction, and then her force was so strong that she was pushing it against it, and it shattered. She was not holding the hammer. Chill's headcanon. She was meeting it with an opposite force that was stronger.
Hmm. Yeah, this is not one of your better headcanons. Plus, Thor Ragnarok was a very problematic movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of issues with that movie. I know he got tased a lot in the first movie, Thor, and that's fair because he had his powers stripped.
Hmm.
But now when you're like super duper charged, whatever, it's like I don't think you should be tased and like that it just seems silly to me. So the whole movie was just really silly and out of whack. It's Taika Waititi.
What
I
were those
wonder,
haircut clippers that Stanley was using made out of to cut the hair of Thor?
right? I don't know, man. It's all freaking weird to me. Anyway, yeah, Taika Waititi. Let's see if lightning can strike twice with Thor: Love and Thunder.
Mm.
Because he had just the right amount of it was literally like one more joke and people would have flipped. For the most part, people were just like, I don't know, man. There were a lot of jokes in Thor, Ragnarok. Yeah, there were. There were almost too many jokes. So what's gonna happen with Love and Thunder? Is everything just gonna be a big joke? Like
Hmm.
we're gonna have Thor in a bikini at some point. I mean, what's gonna happen? Like is it gonna be too much? But we'll see. We'll see.
And that's the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening wherever you listen to. Be sure to subscribe to me on Chillmonger on YouTube. And if you're not already subscribed to Professor Bill on Comic Book University, I don't know what's wrong with you.
That's true. Consider watching an ad once, or at least letting an ad play once in a while. And hey, if you are watching or listening to this on a podcast, consider rating it. That gets the podcast out a little bit more. I want to thank all of you guys we're only at episode 17, and we've got more than 750 downloads. My God, man, that is crazy good. There are literally people on the website talking about how do you have so many, downloads so quickly? And I'm like, bruh, I already came in here. Chill and I came in with an audience. You know what I'm saying? But that's awesome. That's because of you guys. You like what we're saying. You like what we're doing. Please go one step further and rate it on Apple or wherever. Rate it and, good rating. Good rating. We love you guys. We'll talk to you later. Professor Bill and Chillmonger, Comic Book University. Class
Class
dismissed.
dismissed.